Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are previewing week 1 of college football right now with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. Joe Duffy covered a ton of preseason games lists, had a winning record, did a ton of NFL games lists last year, winning record, awesome record in the regular season, and he's doing 10 college games lists in week 1. Very happy for all that. Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. Thanks so much for being back with us.
Oh, thank you, Peter.
All right, we're going to cover UCLA and Virginia. This is where we'll get a hint into how a professional handicapper mind like you analyzes an interesting situation like this with a huge spread. Before we get into that, football season starting right now. For anyone who wants to sign up immediately, tell them how to do it. OffshoreInsiders.com.
No, we do. In fact, today we have both. If you want football-only packages or if you want the entire every single sport from now through the Super Bowl, we've got those packages up at OffshoreInsiders.com. Been in the business now. This is my 27th year winning in this business.
All right, sounds great, Joe Duffy. All right, so here we have UCLA and Virginia, right? We know UCLA has a great team this year, very high expectations. They're ranked in the top 10, and they're a 21-point favorite. Virginia, we know they're having, a lot of issues, a lot of question marks. They have new starters on the offensive line, so there's not really much to analyze here. The question is just, the 21-point spread. Is it too big? It did open at 23, so someone bet this line down a little bit, and the question is just how much of an edge does UCLA have? Will Virginia, play some sort of game plan to keep the score close, to limit possessions, and maybe get a backdoor cover or sneak under? My sense is that, and I wouldn't bet this, but my first sense is that UCLA minus 21 is the play. What do you think, Joe Duffy?
First of all, UCLA, they're going to have to travel 2,213 miles, so that's a very tough road trip indeed. Also, keep in mind, I think that Jim Mora is going to be one of those coaches that's always going to be known as a quote-unquote great recruiter, not necessarily a great game coach. UCLA obviously had a tremendous year last year, but as far as to justify all the hype, I think that they've already won a lot more games on paper than they've won on the field, and I want to see them do it. Virginia's sort of the opposite. Remember, just a couple years ago, Mike London, he was the greatest young coach in all of football. Everybody said he had turned the Virginia program around. Then last year, everything went to hell in a handbasket. But I think because of last year, Virginia comes in a bit undervalued. Plus, I think one of those angles that I'm going to have to do a complete 360, make a complete, a turnaround in my judgment. Remember last year and the year before that, I was telling you how it was really about 6 years ago that a trusted source told me to take a much longer look at teams that needed to get style points to play in the BCS championship game. Well, I think every single coach in the country is smart enough to realize if they go undefeated in a power conference, they're going to go to the Final Four. And I really think that the fact that there's a 4-game playoff is going to eliminate that style points. I think a lot of the national championship contenders are going to be laying too much. And I think traveling cross country, it is a ton of points, especially against a Virginia team. There's no question that they're overmatched. That's why they are 21-point home underdogs. But still, the point spread is just a little bit too high. And again, I think everything went wrong for Virginia last year, so they're a bit undervalued.
All right, just looking on paper, Hundley at quarterback. UCLA has 8 starters returning on defense, and Virginia has 3 new starters on the offensive line. UCLA is stacked at wide receiver. It's just, and for game 1, maybe later in the season things will even out a little bit, but for week 1, it's just very scary to bet on Virginia here at plus 21. But you're not scared, huh, Joe?
No, and keep in mind that UCLA, if they do have a weakness, their offensive line is rebuilt, and Virginia's biggest strength is in their secondary. They've got 3 guys with a combined 75 starts. So you can kind of see how if Mora gets a little bit of a lead, he doesn't want to get too cute. It's one of those things where Virginia could maybe sneak back into the game with their experienced secondary, picking off a pass and maybe turning the complexion of the game. So you can see how UCLA would be a little protective of having maybe a 2-touchdown lead and wouldn't want to run up the score. And again, I'm gonna say it again, there really is no motivation for the national championship contenders to make any statement unless you get to the point where a team has 1 loss, and then we'll talk style points. But at this point, no, I don't think UCLA has much of a reason to run up the score. And if anything, because of Virginia does have a pretty good secondary, I can see how they might play a conservative with a lead.
All right, thanks so much, Joe.